Welcome to the Value Builder Podcast, where we focus on real estate with a value-add mindset. Real strategies, real operators, real outcomes. Let's dive in.
All right. Welcome, Value Builder community. Today I have Jason Medley, the founder and chief connector of Collective Genius. It was a pleasure being a member of that group, and I have nothing to say but only good things, and I'm very excited to dive in. But Jason has an amazing story. He is true connector when it comes to connecting with people. Just through my interaction with Jason, I don't know any other person where you talk to him that he always knows someone in that market, and he always has someone who connect directly. He has over 21 years of experience in real estate. He has a fascinating story, survived 2008 crash. Then he put together this amazing group of real estate investors. I believe is probably close to 1,000 people, and he's gonna give us more update on it. But I'm really excited to dive deep into this conversation. I think by the end of this, I'm sure we'll have a really good understanding about Jason's story. He is going to share about what he feels about real estate, and maybe we'll dive in some deeper questions. He's the founder of an amazing organization which keeps growing, and I would like to see why he's still doing what he's doing, because he's been so successful. And so he's one of my mentors. Welcome, Jason, to the show.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you having me here. I'm honored to lock in with you for the next 30 or 40 minutes and hopefully have some fun and bring some value to your community.
Awesome. So just to start, just to do a frame, if you can go back, with your entrepreneurial journey in the beginning and in the start, can you give us an idea how it started and eventually evolved to Collective Genius? But I know it started from different businesses, just so everyone understands where you're coming from.
Sure. I'll try to condense this because this will be the boring part. But long and short of it is that I worked for corporate America probably for about 6 years. Larger kind of blue chip companies, the Johnson & Johnsons of the world, the MCI WorldComs, who I don't even think are around any longer. At the end of the day, when I was in my late 20s, I got very sick, and I was really kind of forced to make a decision. I was sick enough to be on what you would call short-term disability, and that they call it short-term for a reason. It comes to an end. And it was coming to an end, and I was still not in a position really to go back and sprint at corporate America, which would be expected of me. And so I had to make a decision. I was either going to go back and do something that I wasn't physically ready for, maybe not even capable of, or I was going to step out and try to do my own thing. And so that's what happened. It was before I made that big move, leaving my security of a nice job, if you will. Was refinancing my home to take a little cash out to create a little buffer. And the young man who was doing my mortgage rolled up in his triple black 911 Carrera Turbo. And I said, "How'd you get that?" And he said, "Doing mortgages." And since he was a few years younger than I was, of course, I was intrigued by that. And I said, "Well, do you got a spot over there for a new guy?" And so long and short of it is I took that position. That's the first time in my life where I really moved into a position of eating what you kill every day, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so that really brought out the best in me when I had to get up every day and go that route, if you will, versus kind of getting a steady paycheck. And so that brought out the best in me. And I started out in the mortgage business for 7 or 8 years. 2008 showed up, kicked my teeth in, lost the business, the marriage, house, the whole kit and caboodle, and then had to kind of hit the reset button. And so long and short of it is I started a boutique funding company that funded short sales for one day called transactional funding. And that eventually evolved into me taking some of my top customers, if you will, and putting them into a room and just saying, "Hey, let's just kind of share what's working, what's not with each other." We established some core values, one of them being go-giving, meaning if you don't come to give, then this isn't the right place for you. And so before you know it, we had a thriving community of talented people coming in and sharing systems, strategies, resources, connections, doing life together, climbing Mount Everest, you name it, right? And so that was 15 years ago, and here we are today with close to 700 memberships with partners involved. It's somewhere around the 1,000 mark, with
Wow.
Saul.
So it's very interesting. I didn't even know the beginnings as clear as right now. So eventually, in the beginning, it did not even start as a vision to have 1,000 people mastermind. It was just getting people in the room and sharing the ideas. How did it start? Actually, was it always a grandiose idea like it is right now?
No. Honestly, if I'm shooting it straight, it was really just kind of a side project for my core business of the lending the money, and then I was kind of forced into growing it because the regulations came into play that began to kind of create compression around that funding business. And so I had to kind of take my foot off the gas of that and put it onto the collective genius. And so it was almost kind of forced, if you will. I'd love to tell you I had some big grandiose idea, but that would not be true.
Called God grace, you know? You
Yes.
never exactly right.
Yeah. I've experienced it many, many, many times in my life. That was one of them.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I know my first interaction with Collective Genius. I think I was not one of those first when people in the room, but I think it was like 50 or 60 people. When I went there, it was like, what is this? Right? It just, I was one of those I called maybe, first people who are trying to systemize rehabbing and run it as a business, not as like a side project when you're getting it. And I created many systems within Chicagoland. And when I went there, just like, people were sharing, right? And it was not seen that. I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable, right? And I think that was a time when masterminds were not prevalent like it is right now. I definitely believe that was the first strategically built mastermind for real estate investors and in housing and for flippers and for people who build in portfolios. But I guess the question is, so you always, I mean, how did it really from very get go? That was really a mastermind with real right values in terms of sharing. So, any insights? How did it happen? Just you started building right away, the right way. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, to do it the right way. I mean, I think if you're going to build any community, you either dictate the culture or it will dictate the culture, right?
Hmm.
It's going to have a culture no matter what. So it's a matter of who's going to create and define that culture, whether it's you as the leader or it's the members. And so we set out very early on to create a culture that was established around core values, community being number one, go giving being number two. And we have a few others, but those are really the kind of the two most important, if you will. And really truly honoring, like, hey, this is a community, no man, no woman left behind. We're in this together. We take care of each other. We always said that they say you can count your true friends on one hand. We wanted to say, hey, we're doing a good job if one of those fingers is a collective genius member. Right. And then again, really around the sharing component. And I think too, the other thing that really made CG stand out and take off is that it was so much bigger than business, right? Being successful just financially that's really one dimension. To be a successful human being, I want to hit on all fronts, right? I want to make money. I want to run a good business, be a good leader. I want to be a good spouse. I want to be a good parent. I want to have my faith in God continue to develop. Like it's a lot, to pull it all off at one time. And so I think that was one of the other things that really created the bond. And it was bigger than just, of course, we came to make money. Don't misunderstand me, right? That's obviously a huge portion or part of the organization, but it was also very much a brotherhood and sisterhood around, like, we got to get better on all fronts of our lives, and to have people that hold you accountable and that you hold accountable and you get together with on a quarterly basis and really, check in with each other. Are you moving? Are you static? Are you, like, what's life look like? I think that's really one of the things. And I created a real sense of vulnerability. We talk about hard stuff. And I was, especially in the beginning, I was the one I would always go, hey, I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I won't do. So I would always go first and talk about the hard stuff. So, I think that's really initially establishing a set of core values, defining what you stand for, what you stand against. That's going to attract the people that belong in the organization and repel the people that don't. And then just operating from, as a vulnerable leader, if that makes sense. Some people have a hard
Yeah,
time understanding how those two
yeah.
words go together.
I have seen many times your if I made, crying, sharing the stories, and I was like, it was so powerful. At the same time, there was a lot of, macho going on in the room, it was very inspiring, and something that not seen in other events, so you definitely did a
Yeah,
lot of
like
good.
being able to show both sides of
Yeah,
yourself, right?
yeah,
Like the
yeah.
man
It
who
was
wakes
like,
up every morning and wants to go take
if I,
scalps, and the same guy who is gonna be in tears over a struggle that he's having, right? You get
yeah,
it's all of
yeah. It's amazing. Thank you. So clearly what I'm getting is really actually your, you being vulnerable, but called being a Nazi on your values, right? And getting people into it. It's not like, the culture built by itself, right? You attract your people, and there's two school of thoughts, right? You attract good people, and it's gonna happen by itself. But what I'm getting is actually you were pretty direct, right? What values you want to instill in that organization. Do you think which way it happened? Is it more organization built the values, or it was like, no, this is my values. If you're not in those values, maybe letting close to my baby.
Yeah, no, I think that it was primarily we set the values up front, and that was again, like I said, that's what attracts people to or repels them from the organization, and so we set them up front. And to this day, CG is 15 years old, and to this day, you cannot attend a Collective Genius event without those core values being stated upon arrival. It's how we started, and it's still how we're doing it. You know?
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know. Another thing where I want to mention that was a little new to me, or maybe that was something I was looking at in Collective Genius. The hook, I remember, where you attracted those people, definitely the very competitive nature investors. At the time, it was only 50 deals you had to have under your belt a year. I don't know what's the benchmark right now, but it was 50 minimum. And it was like, wow, that's great. I was doing more than that, but it was no one in Chicago. But when you go in the room, it was not emphasized that much. Yeah, it was competitive nature, but it was something like, being a better leader, being a better person, just all those other values around. And it was just, I think that was the main sticking point for me and for the people who are actually stayed in the room. And there are so many friends, dear friends I actually collected in Collective Genius a decade later.
Yeah, yeah, decade.
So this is what I'm getting, from Collective Genius. Was a real very different group than other groups I've attended. So props to you, man. Props to you. All right. I want to dive in a little bit, or maybe actually as deep as we can. You no longer the CEO of Collective Genius. I remember you were transitioning that, or at least you were setting the groundwork for that. But I see the Collective Genius, grew at least 2 or 3 times since it was last time in that room, and I believe that was without you at the helm, meaning you are still behind. But can you shed some light? And I think I think many of myself and many of my readers or listeners, they read Tractions and and iOS and understand the framework, right? But I think there is something more to it. It's almost like, a person has to grow up to that level to be able to instill those called systems or that energy in organization that keeps growing without you. So, I mean, is there any way, is there you can explain to us, what is that actually? Is it a size of the organization? Is that values besides the operating system that we need? I understand it has to run, but if you could try to explain to someone who doesn't understand how to go to that transition, meaning you have organization and you want to just push it a little bit, but you still keep going, without you being in a hell. How does that look like? What do we need to do to get to that state?
Yeah, hang on one second, and I'm gonna go through something with you because this
Yeah,
is a
sure.
huge. I'm gonna pull something up here, right? So what I did was I went through a process, right? Like you don't just like, well, I'm gonna hire a CEO and replace myself. I think you have to go through, and I've got a huge set of questions.
Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so really, when you make a decision like this, there's a lot that goes into it, right? But I think that the core of it is you can look up and you can be successful on paper. You can have the business, you can have assets, you can have a great net worth, you can be making a lot of money, but deep down there are these hidden constraints that keep you successful, yet they keep you stuck in the reality of the day-to-day business. And the longer you stay stuck year after year, you begin to take something that was once a blessing, and on any given day, you can view it as a burden.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start to feel that way about something, that's almost like saying, like, half the time I don't like my kid, right? Like, or my child, like you that's not right. And so when you start to get a sense of that, you got to start asking yourself some questions, right? And one of those questions is, okay, I own the business, so I'm the CEO, but am I really just an operator with a fancy title,
Mm-hmm.
right? Am I really just an operator with a fancy title? They call me CEO. And I think for a lot of folks who are, running a, say, 10 to $50 million business, that answer is yes. And it was for me. But again, I had all the paper success, but there were these constraints that I had, almost like the very things that make you successful, the control, if you will, that has to be released and broken in order for you to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went through and kind of asked myself a series of questions, and I've broken down in here, as you can see, but different kind of categories of personal motivation and readiness. Like you said, Sal, is there a dollar amount? Have I hit a ceiling? Is the business outgrown you know, my leadership capability? Like, what is the vision for the business? Who are the stakeholders? How does it impact them? What are the desired outcomes for the transition? What does the transition look like? What does the recruiting and onboarding phase look like? And am I emotionally prepared to relinquish my identity, right? Like, I walk into the Collective Genius now, and there came a day about 6 weeks ago where I gave up my office to the new CEO, right? And I just hang out in the conference room.
Wow.
Yeah, I gave up my office, and it's a nice one. And getting to a place of humility where you are ready for that, and it's the best thing for the organization and for you, is a journey. That a lot of that falls under the personal motivation category and the emotional preparation, but I got there by asking myself these questions, and really thinking in depth about what I want the future to look like. And it goes twofold as well, right? It's not just, hey, I can't run the day to day of the business anymore. I need to work on specific projects. It's almost as if to become the CEO, you have to hire a CEO, if that makes sense. And so,
Unpack it a little bit. Unpack a little bit more.
what's that?
Do you mind unpack it a little bit? So you're becoming just uh, uh, a more advanced task of CEO, and you have the CEO just replace the task, or
Yeah, I mean, the CEO comes in and runs the day to day, and Cast a Vision is responsible for the forecast and the annual planning, or the one-page plan. Like, they're responsible for it. But there are certain things that you as the founder can do, and only you can do. And then
mm-hmm,
you start to get to withdraw from, like, if I'm in 7 meetings over the course of a week, and then I get to look up and say, wow, I don't have to be in any of those. I just got 12 hours of my time back. Now, what levers can I pull to grow the organization? What structural changes can I put in place to grow the organization now that I am not starting and stopping 13 times a day?
mm-hmm.
And then you have to it is a fight. It is a true fight. You have to become so protective of your time. Well, I mean, you were a perfect example, right? I was like, Saul, I can't do this.
I was only asked for 6 months. I don't appreciate that, but
Yeah.
yeah, I saw
And
that.
it's not about being hoity-toity or I'm too good for it. It's not that at all. It's more so you literally have to make a mental shift that mine is to step out of planning events and doing podcasts and these things. You and I have a personal relationship, so I agreed to do it, but you have to become incredibly protective of your time. And then you ask yourself, okay, obviously I want to get some of that back to put it into my wealth, my health, my faith, my family. But what do I do with some of it that all those things, think about it, Saul, every day, all day, that you go home and you're like, I didn't get to that today. Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't get to that today. I didn't
Yeah.
get to that today. And that
Hmm.
frustration that you carry home every day because you didn't get to that, right? And now you start moving into a position where that is what you work on.
I mean, it gets you more clarity. Right
Let
now,
me give you this. Okay. You're standing over top of a state football stadium, right? There's 3 layers there. There's a
Mm-hmm.
quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brady, got a good life,
Yeah.
living large,
Yeah.
illustrious career,
CEO.
making a bunch of money,
Mm-hmm.
getting sacked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then you got the coach,
Mm-hmm. And I
right?
have another one.
Still on the field, calling the plays, wearing the rings, making the money, not getting sacked. Then you got the guy in the owner's box. You follow me?
I follow.
And
I do follow.
as a CEO or as the founder, or because I'm getting real cautious about using that term now, CEO, right? But like
Mm-hmm.
as the founder, you're at any one of those 3 phases at any given time in your career. And that move to the owner's box of I'm in the stadium, still get to wear the rings, still making the money, I'm still involved in key decisions, but I'm making bigger moves with my time and working on more important projects, right? Like Jerry Jones is out negotiating building a new stadium and getting sponsors for it versus probably being in the depths of what's going on in the draft.
That makes sense, but it's so clear right now. Way to explain, because I think me including and some people also think, and I can speak probably for myself. Then when I think that I'm gonna hire a CEO or a partner, I'll just pretty much take that time and I'll become almost like a passive investor. I'm gonna start a new business, but actually it's 2 different things. Not you're not selling, you're just elevating. And the way that it thinks is just I probably as an owner, and if I may ask, most of the time right now we're just spending thinking about what I don't have as an operator a lot of times, thinking time, like which I do Saturdays, Sundays in the morning when I meditate and pray. That's my thinking time. Probably have right now more of that, which is a work, thinking and praying, right?
So even getting to that point is a lengthy process, right? Like I just hired our CEO has been with us for 3.5 or 4 months. And so I'm not at that point where I'm just up every day, just thinking and hanging out and working on like it, because to get a CEO, even a rock star CEO that comes in who's not familiar with your business or maybe your industry, you're talking about a year-long grooming process of handing that baton, right? Where I've got a death grip on it and then I put it out and you put your hand on it and I loosen mine a little bit, you squeeze a little harder, I loosen, you squeeze, and eventually I
Yeah.
let go. And then, right, so even once you bring that, hiring that individual is a process and onboarding that individual is a process. They're both lengthy processes. And so I think that's part of one of the things I'm most passionate about is helping entrepreneurs understand that is something that you kind of daydream about one day. The
Hmm.
reality of it is when you begin to develop a level of appreciation for how long it takes to do it and to do it right, you move from daydreaming about it to understanding that it has to be engineered,
Hmm.
right? It has to be engineered. It's not an accident. It has to be
Hmm.
engineered. And when I say engineered, I mean really thinking about you're over top of the chessboard thinking about because here's the other big thing. When you hire a CEO and that CEO runs a business successfully without your day-to-day presence, the value of your organization just went way up.
Exactly.
The value of your organization just went way up because if ever anyone wants to come in and invest in it, buy a portion of it, a majority portion, all of it, they say someone else is running this business other than the founder and they've been doing it successfully for 2 years, 3 years, 4, whatever. Okay. All right.
Means it can be done without him.
Yeah. Because they
Absolutely.
get worried. Like if you got a, they buy a founder led business and they're like, oh, I just gave this guy or this gal just a bunch of money and they might be a flight risk now. So
Exactly.
doing that, and that's you hit on a key point if you want to dig into it about when you make this shift you have to begin to look at your business as you are the investor,
Mm-hmm.
right? What does that equate to, though? Like, in practicality? Practicality of that typically means you've reached a point where you're like, I've made enough money, have enough assets where I you know, everything is kind of gravy on top. So if I don't have to have that money from the business, what does it look like? Okay, let's just say you're making $2 million a year, right? You're like, okay, I'm gonna go hire a CEO that's 400 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And if we really want to grow, I need 400 grand to live.
Mm-hmm.
We still got $1.2 million left over, but I'm going to start taking I'm actually going to take a salary, and I don't take anything else above the 400 grand unless there's profit distributions left over at the end of the year. Right.
And you pretty much you keep investing the remaining back in business, right? That's the point.
Right. Okay, I just spent 400 grand, whatever. We're just picking numbers. 400 grand for a new CEO. And then there's a million two left that you're going to start leaving in the business because that CEO is going to want to go replace your CMO. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're going to want to go and make this investment over here for 200 grand. Right. And so now what it is you stop sucking all the cash out of the business. You establish a salary in which you can live comfortably and take care of your family. And you've got plenty behind that anyway, because you don't usually make a decision like this until you do.
Mm-hmm.
From a reserves and asset perspective. And now you are an investor in the business, right? Instead of sucking that 2 million out, I'm going to go buy some freedom. I'm going to go buy some freedom and bring in a rock star, a killer for 400 grand, right? And then I'm going to let them have a budget or some of these. And of course, it's got to go under your nose, right? But I'm going to leave that extra money in the business to either build reserves or to invest in talent or whatever it may be. And now I'm going to begin investing in the business instead of sucking that $2 million.
This is just a key. I don't know if anyone noticed, but I did. It's pretty much shifting your mindset from cash flow mindset to asset mindset. So yeah, take 400,000. So that's your, or whatever it is, that base. And the remaining, you're not looking how much business is going to make this year and take it out, that oxygen. Or if the business is going to be worth more than in 5 years or 10 years more than keeping the money and compounding that ROI compared to you putting that, sucking out and
You're
putting somewhere
switching the
else.
game. You're switching the game you're playing. The first part you're talking about, you're playing the income game.
Yeah.
When you look up and you say, I won that game, then you shift to an enterprise value or an asset value game. You could have been still playing that while you were
Yeah, but
working.
you can compare it. You can compare, what's worth more for you, worth more to you and to your family than when assets appreciate. You don't take it out the first year.
Right.
Every
So you
single.
say, I'm done playing the income. I don't need the income anymore because I've been making $2 million for 10 years and I live on 400 grand. And so we have plenty of money and so I'm good. So I'm done playing the income game. This next phase for me is I'm going to play the value game. What is the thing that I build from this point forward? What is it? What is the value of it? Right.
That's amazing.
What is the value of the portfolio you're building, or what is the value of the organization if you were to sell it? Right? Because when you now, instead of taking one of those dollars from that 2 million, you're working on creating a multiple of a dollar.
That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what everyone
Wow.
talks about when you sell a business or say, what multiple did you get?
Yeah.
Right? And so do I want to take one of those dollars out of the 2 million, or do I want to take $1 million and get a 7 multiple on it or a 8 multiple on it? Right? So you're just shifting the game how you look at the business, and then you shift the game that you're playing.
Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Wow. That was really, really big aha for me right now. We just shared fully for
That's good.
many
Like it.
folks also. That's awesome. I think we have a few more minutes. I have one question I want to ask you, which also may sound deep. If you want to pass on it, it's totally fine. But watching you from aside for many years, right? So you keep elevating your game. Why are you're still doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And I remember you started this notion, bringing collective genius. I think you brought it to speakers. We start comparing, our houses closed and dollar amounts compared to everything else, what we do and why we do it, right? How is that right now? This dynamic for you working, still going for more dollars, but still wanting to make your life better and greater, which is almost like sometimes feels like contradiction. want to have both. But maybe you can, maybe you can share how it is that in your life right now. What is whether taking priority or how you combining those two. In my experience, for example, I'm sometimes I catch myself like maybe I'm losing motivation. What's wrong with me? Because I wanted to have a plane 10 years ago. Right now, that it's not that important. I wanted to have X. I have that X, but I have it. I have 10X, but I don't want a 10X anymore. And I'm catching myself. What's going on? What's happening? Is that 45-year-old symptoms? And we're
It
at
is
right now.
quite normal. Saul is quite normal. I think when you get to midlife as a man, and I'm sure as a woman, your priorities change, and the things that you thought. First of all, you look up, and if you've been working hard and doing well, you probably already got everything but the plane. And then you just
Yeah.
start to question it. Like sometimes reality sets in. Like, where would I take it?
Yeah.
Right. And who's
Okay.
going to go? Right. I got kids in school. None of my friends, all my friends have businesses or jobs, and they can't and your business may be, often do you buy a property that you need to get on a plane and go see? Right. Like you start to look at life and its practicalities, and you just like, man, I don't know. Like I've always wanted a home in Mexico, build a villa on the cliffs,
I remember that.
Pacific Mexico. Right. Like I've always been. And then you get to there and you're just like, man, that's just one more thing to worry about. And it's gonna cost
Yeah.
$3 million in cash. If I just invest the $3 million and get 10%, that's 300 grand a year. I still got the three
Yeah.
million. I can vacation anywhere for 300,000. Like you just change. You just change.
Hmm.
But I know that changes. And so a lot of people say, well, why do you keep going?
Yes,
I
exactly.
don't think you like at this phase of my life. Of course I'm attentive and certainly tracking it. And so I don't want that to be misunderstood, but I'm not working for money anymore. I work because I love being a catalyst in human beings' lives. I love being a catalyst in human beings' lives. The people who are on my team and the people who are in my community and everyone else and everyone around me, my family. I love being a catalyst. And that doesn't change just because you hit a certain dollar amount, right? If that's who you are, that's what you enjoy to do. You don't say, well, I got this much money now, or my net worth is this much now, and so let me go flip that switch off. I don't enjoy that anymore, right? That's just not, I think sometimes you hear Jeff Bezos and by the way, I'm nothing like Elon Musk. They're bazillionaires. They're not waking up every day thinking. They're just like, they like to build and they
Hmm.
like to contribute to humanity and impact people's lives. And whether got a million, 10 million, 100 million, if that's how you're wired, that's how you're wired.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So now at the same time, I'm taking those calculated steps at almost 54 years old to, okay, I've got a CEO. Well, next quarter, Q1 of this year, I'm not working on Thursdays, right?
Hmm.
And then in Q2, I'm not working on Tuesdays or Thursdays. And then I'm just going to sit in that for a little while and see how that feels. And then you got new challenges like, okay, what are you going to do with 2 whole days a week? Because everyone thinks we want to, run off to a deserted island and sit on the beach and drink Coronas. But the reality of it is the reality of life doesn't permit that in most cases. I mean, I've got a child in school, and my wife works at our church, and she loves it and is passionate about it. And it's like, just doesn't,
It gets boring anyway. So if you can do, how long you can do that?
yeah, yeah. And if you did, you probably could do it by yourself because ain't nobody else can do it with you.
Exactly.
No one else can do it with you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have, I have plenty of stories, people who tried to retire, early, and I did, and it didn't work out. It was completely different
Yeah,
than
a
I
lot
thought
of
about.
people go into depression because they lose purpose and they lose having that flag in the ground that wakes them up every day and moves them forward.
That's
That's why I was
awesome.
saying, like, I know if that's who you are, if you're someone who's driven by that, propelled by that, hitting a certain dollar amount doesn't change that. If I were to sell CG today for $100 million, change very little.
You would start another one probably right away or something similar.
I mean, it would change. There's nothing I would go out and buy or a
Hmm.
different car, different house, or like it just, you get to a point where it loses its relevancy. And that's just being straightforward. That's not from a lack of appreciation by any means, right? I wake up every day, thank God for my blessings. But, the things that we chased as young men, they,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think it's always evolution. And there's always going to keep changing. Life is going to keep going and your perception is going to keep changing, I think. Brother, that was amazing. I think let's finish up. If you can share about Collective Genius, I think there is some evolution happened with your evolution. Even right now, we got some coaching, amazing coaching about transitioning and hiring for you as CEO. So maybe that's another aspect, but maybe you can share with all the listeners who want to get in touch with you at Collective Genius and how the Collective Genius work right now. It used to be 4 meetings in Tampa and San Diego when I was, but maybe there's now different formats at it.
Yeah, so now we have, when you were in CG, there was one community, and now there's 5. And so
Okay.
they're typically broken down by the level of business that you have. There's 10 million and above, 2 to 10 million, $500,000 to 2 million, and then 250 to 500,000. But one of the things I'm most, so if you guys would want to check CG out, it's a fantastic community, not just for business. It's just got a lot of really, really good human beings in it. You're welcome to go to learn more about cg.com or go to thecollectivegenius.com, and there's kind of a breakdown there of the different levels that we have based upon the size of your business, and you pick that level, and it'll kind of take you on a tour of what that looks like. Yeah, the thing I'm probably most excited about right now is the what we call CG CEO. It's a community that we started about a year and a half ago. The conversation that we had today is the core, the premise of that organization, because it's that entrepreneur who's running that $10 to $50 million business and really trying to figure out, like, okay, I've got that paper success, material success, but I'm still the quarterback getting sacked every day. How do I move to coach, and then from coach to the owner's box? How do I make that transition? And we've created some new frameworks, which are amazing. I call it the Crown Framework, which is something that we're all pursuing in CG CEO. It's crossing over from quarterback to coach to the owner's box. The R in Crown is releasing the habits that built you, right? That control go in order to get to the next level. And once you let it go, you can optimize the business without you. Right. And then when you can optimize the business, then you've got the time to spend on the D and the N in the crown structure, which is your wealth, health, family, and your next level legacy. Right. And so those are the types of things that before I had a CEO, building that framework, I could have never done. Could have never done.
Yeah. Yeah, appreciate, man. No, for sure. So anyone who wants to get more of Jason's wisdom, go to collectivegenius.com. I'm not affiliate. I was just the evangelist. I was a member, and I'm still a big fan. So definitely guys, go check out. That's amazing community. I can vouch for it. Again, I'm not getting paid. I'm not paid spokesman, but they're really good people.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jason, for joining, dropping those wisdom bombs. Always fun. Hopefully I can get you in next year. I know it's going to take me 6 months to get you in, but that's fine. I really appreciate for all your wisdom, and I really value what you share, man. Thank you. Cool.
You've been listening to the Value Builder Podcast. For more strategies, stories, and episodes, head to valuebuilder.co or subscribe on your favorite app. Always make it better than you found it and keep adding value. See you in the next one.